Hey y'all, welcome to another video. Everything about YouTube has changed since I've been on 2 years ago. The dashboard has changed where they put comments and like I feel like a total newbie again. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going to share my cancer story. If you're new here or you don't know, 2 years ago or about 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with classic Hodgkins lymphoma and it was quite an experience. And so I share today with the hopes that my story will help someone else who maybe is going through a diagnosis themselves, or maybe someone will be watching in the future and will connect to my story and have some comfort. That's one of the things about cancer nobody tells you is you kind of become, or I have become cancer answer lady. Wow, that rhymes. I count it a privilege, though, when people from way back who I haven't talked to in 20 years or more contact me and say, hey, I have cancer, like help. What do I need to know? That's such a privilege to me, and it's an honor to be able to speak with those people and to bring any kind of comfort or information that I can do to help. So my hope is this video will be something that I can refer people to, that they can sit down and watch themselves and hear my story and hear some of my experiences and maybe see themselves in those experiences. My story starts with the birth of my daughter in 2016. I always tell people that I never got the bounce back with her that I got with my first child. With my son, about 2 years after he was born, I felt a big shift in my energy levels and feeling just like more like myself, and I never got that with her. I went through sort of this mystery phase where I was doing lots of Googling and like self-diagnosing from the internet. I was convinced I had like thyroid problems or perhaps Epstein-Barr or female hormonal issues. I had all kind of hypotheses. I got tested for a lot of things and was just like really in this, what I call the mystery phase. 4th of July, we took a trip down to Destin, Florida, and I caught some kind of a little cold down there. And it was one of those that hung around for like ever. And I developed this awful cough that just never went away. And I also started experiencing breathing problems. For example, I would walk up the stairs and be completely out of breath. And I'm like, look, I walk for exercise. Our neighborhood is extremely hilly. I'm active. I lead an active lifestyle. Like, this doesn't make sense. So my other symptoms were unexplained rash, fatigue. Like, I constantly was telling people, like, why do normal things seem so hard? Night sweats. I would wake up sweating a lot. Again, I thought this was hormonal. I had unexplained weight loss and like decreased hunger. I had cough, shortness of breath, and fatigue. Just like general blah feeling. I just thought it was my life. I was a mom of 2, a business owner. I had a lot on my plate, and I just thought, hey, this is just my life after 2 kids. This is just how it's going to be. And so I was very much of the attitude, well, just carry on and just kind of push through, and either I'll figure out what this is and address it, or I'll just keep going. So I kept going until it just got so bad, my breathing, that I thought, well, I need to go to the doctor, clearly. So I finally, I even remember being annoyed that I had to go to the doctor about this. I went to my primary care. She immediately gave me some treatments for asthma, allergies, and the like. But at the same appointment, she suggested that we go ahead and schedule a chest x-ray and some tests to look at my heart to make sure that everything was okay. That chest x-ray ended up picking up a swollen lymph node. She told me that. I had no idea what that meant. So she called me on a Friday and said, like, how's your breathing? Like, your oxygen levels are really low. Like, you could go spend the weekend at the hospital and then go to the CT that I have you scheduled on Monday. And I like start crying because my son's birthday party is the next day at Chuck E. Cheese, and like, I want to go, and I tell her this, and she's like, well, you're fine to go. Just like tune into your body. And if you're having trouble breathing, like massively, go to the ER. All the notes are in the system. You'll be fine. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? And so like one of the things running through my mind at this point was like lung cancer. I'm like, it's breathing, like I never smoked, but I hear about all these people that get lung cancer, that whatever. So I go to the birthday party, and it's at Chuck E. Cheese and they handle everything. And so mentally preparing myself for this, I'm like, okay, no one knows I'm sick. I have to pretend like everything's okay. And I just remember grappling with like, why is it so hard for me to like go and sit in a booth for 2 hours and like talk to a couple people and smile and like take pictures? And I remember watching the clock like a hawk. Like I didn't think I was going to make it. And this was so bizarre to me. Like, why can't I just sit here and enjoy my son's birthday party? But I did. And the end of the party was supposed to be at noon. And so noon comes, everyone's still playing. 12:15 comes, my son is still playing, and like they give him an unlimited pass. So he's still playing games. And I look at my father and I'm like, I have to go. Like, right. I can't do this anymore. And so he takes me home. But when we walk out into the parking lot, I just completely break down crying, like, what is wrong with me? Oh. So my parents, who were in town for my son's birthday party, decide to stay over the weekend till Monday, till my CT scans. They go with me to that. It's first thing Monday morning. My primary care doctor calls me right after that and says, can you come in at 11? Come to the office. And I'm like, okay, it's bad if she's telling me to come in. So I bring my entourage with me. I have my husband meet me there. My parents come in with me, and I can tell she's like emotionally very disturbed. I'm like, oh, what is she about to tell me? And I just can't even relate to you what it's like to hear the words, you have cancer. It's such a shock. Like, it's really hard to hear any other details after that. But after I got hit with that, what she basically told me was, we can tell from scans that it appears you have lymphoma. We just don't know what type. So we need to get a biopsy. By the way, your tumor is behind your sternum, and it's right in the center of your chest where your heart and a bunch of nerves and like really important stuff is back there. So we're going to set you up with a cardiothoracic surgeon. So that's what they did. The good thing about the surgery is it was able to relieve some of my symptoms. The breathing problems I was having was from fluid on my lungs. I remember waking up from that surgery. I had a chest tube coming out the side of my lung. And the nurses were talking to each other and they said, 2.7 liters. That's the amount of fluid they took off my right lung. That's like a 3-liter bottle of Coke. So no wonder I couldn't breathe. So they were able to drain that off and get the biopsy that they needed. The waiting period from that until when I got my diagnosis was over 2 weeks, which is an eternity when you know, like, you have some kind of cancer. Nothing's being done to address it yet. It's just like horrifying. And so they called me, or actually I called them. I basically stalked the doctor's office because they told me it could be as soon as 3 or 4 days. And so I was like on edge waiting for this phone call. So when they told me it was Hodgkins lymphoma, it's like, okay, we have a name for this. I got set up with the oncologist and everything was just really fast after that. A lot of the cancer patients can probably relate to, there's always like a next obstacle to get through. So I had my initial consult with the oncologist. He was talking to me about the different types of chemo. He went ahead and scheduled my port placement where they put something in you that it's like a device that takes the chemo directly to your heart. It makes the treatment more effective. Still really scary. So I'm like ready for my second surgery, which by the way, I was awake for this one. That was quite an experience. My port placement, I get that done. Like 4 days later, I think, I start chemo. So it's just like a lot of fast processing and a lot of like next hurdles to get to. PET scans, staging, it's just totally overwhelming. So my diagnosis ended up being stage 3. I had several different lymph nodes lit up on the PET scan as well as my spleen. And so they staged me at stage 3, which was shocking. I always thought, like, I thought if I ever got cancer, of course I'll catch it early because I'm so healthy and I like do everything right. And I like don't drink much alcohol and have never smoked cigarettes or anything like that. I don't do drugs. Like, very straight-laced and use all the clean beauty products and stuff. And like, I'm semi-careful with what I eat and yet still I get cancer. Sometimes there's no answer to the whys. So I forge ahead, go to my first chemo. That is an experience in and of itself. Red Devil was one of my drugs. I think it's called adriamycin. It's funny. I used to be able to like list off all my chemo drugs, just like da, 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 da. I know my regimen was called AAVD. There was a newest drug in there. Etcetera was one of my drugs, but the first drug was the Red Devil, and it's the one that they have to administer by hand. So my nurse puts on, like, I call it a hazmat suit. Like, she puts on a head covering, 2 gowns, gloves, and I'm like, what the heck? And she must have seen the horror in my eyes, because she's like, oh, we just have to do this because it's really corrosive. And I'm like, this is going in me. And so that was really difficult. But after that, it was just like one thing after another, and like dealing with hair loss and all of those things. And it's just a roller coaster of emotions and experiences. And so I go through chemotherapy for 6 months. I develop some issues, some side effects from chemo, actually a lot of side effects from chemo. I had lots of digestive issues. Mainly the hardest thing, which I'm still dealing with to this day, 2.5 years later, is neuropathy and weakness in my legs and feet. I got a lot of numbness, a lot of weakness. I developed a limp. Once treatment was over, I feel like all the like dealing with, the next obstacle, all that stopped. And then it just became like all the trauma set in, and that's just like processing this thing that I'd gone through. And it was just really profoundly difficult. I ended up needing physical therapy for 6 months to try to build back up my leg strength. I had a lot of pain. I still can't wear normal shoes. I mainly wear like Dr. Scholl's slip-on sneakers or Birkenstocks. My legs have gotten a lot stronger. The numbness is still there, and I know this is common for a lot of cancer patients to have a lot of the after effects of chemo. I am in remission now, and I just want to tell any of you who are going through a diagnosis right now, just breathe. Moment to moment is the way to take it. And it's just a lot to absorb. It's completely overwhelming. There's so many hardships that like never occurred to me. Just like telling people was so draining. Maybe I'll make a video for like things cancer patients wish you knew. I may do that, so y'all stay tuned for that. It's just a really hard thing to go through, and it's something that's changed me forever. And there are kind of stages that people go through a lot who've been through cancer, such as like not being able to relate to people very much after like, and on the one hand, you want to feel normal. And on the other hand, when you hear people complain about certain things, it's like, I just can't even relate to that. Like, I would be so happy if that was my only problem. So that's basically my cancer story, my diagnosis. I would just tell you, if you have like a weird cluster of symptoms, ask questions, advocate for yourself. Don't ignore it. Don't push through and like have this attitude of, well, carry on, like maybe this is just normal. Ask questions and go get checked out. Again, the symptoms of lymphoma are shortness of breath, dry cough, unexplained rash, unexplained weight loss, night sweats, fever. I'm very glad to still be here today, to still be alive. There's so many things I want to talk about. Obviously, like my hair has come back. This is 2 years worth of growth. I finished chemo almost just a little over 2 years ago. I've had a couple of haircuts in here. You guys remember like I had the long blonde hair. I have not gone back to highlighting my hair. I went totally with my natural color, including lots of gray, which actually doesn't bother me. It feels a lot healthier now. Ironically, going dye-free was something that I had considered before cancer. I just didn't know how to get through like the awkward, like growing out the roots stage. 0 out of 10 would recommend the method of getting cancer and like losing all your hair. But I thought, as long as we're starting from scratch, maybe I'll just see how it goes without dyeing my hair. That part has been enjoyable. And actually even my view on gray hairs has changed. Like I don't think growing old is something that I want to resist anymore. It's actually a privilege because I looked the alternative in the face. Things like gray hair don't seem like much of a big deal anymore. You know what I'm saying? If you have had cancer, I'm so sorry. I know I feel like cancer survivors, like we have this level of understanding with each other that nobody else like really even gets. I would just encourage you to do the best you can day by day. I would encourage you to get therapy. Therapy is not anything you should ever be ashamed of. So I would highly recommend that for processing the trauma. There's a lot of PTSD type situations that happen. Like, for example, when I have to go back to my cancer center, I get like really nauseous, even smells and like walking across the walkway, and like it brings it all back. So there's challenges like that, but it does get better as time goes on. And I'm even to the point now where like I don't even remember when my follow-ups were. Like I just had one a couple weeks ago, and I remember prior to that thinking like, I wonder if I have a fault. Like it wasn't even on my radar. I had to get on the portal and like look. And those appointments used to kind of haunt me and used to always be looming, and I always had an awareness of them. So if you're going through it, or if you're just out of treatment and at the beginning of kind of your survivorship, it does get easier. My heart goes out to you. Big hugs to my cancer community. Leave me a comment and let me know if this has helped you, or if there's any other cancer topics you'd like me to cover in a video. I'm happy to do that. And y'all stay tuned for the next one. Bye.